Right, good evening, everybody. We should be live again. Um, Tonight we've got Julie at the moment. We did have Sam about up until a few minutes ago, but Sam seems to have disappeared. So I'm thinking she's probably lost her internet connection because she did say this morning she was actually moving her studio around again and she'd gone back into the kitchen. So I'm guessing she's actually lost her internet connection. So hopefully, if she can get back on, we'll get her back
Yeah.
on the panel. So, what we're going to do tonight, what we're going to talk about tonight, I called it "Call My Bluff." It's basically the first part of the show. We're just going to discuss how things in the paranormal can be misconstrued, how things can accidentally be misidentified as paranormal when they're not. Sometimes it could be deliberate. Sometimes, and to be honest with you, I think the majority of the time it is innocent mistakes. Evening, Seago. Hi, Jane. But it is a very interesting topic. We can touch on pareidolia and things like pictures and photographs and how they can be misconstrued. But you've actually in the chat this time.
I am. I have internet back.
So thankfully, I don't have to read all the chat out to Julie this week.
Yes.
She can sort it herself. Right. What I'm also going to do, I have written down the notes on 4 separate things just to prove that it can be extremely difficult to work out whether what you're being told is in fact genuine paranormal, or whether be that folklore or anything else, or whether it is I can't read what your Sheriff Buford.
Sheriff.
Hi, Sheriff Buford. Sorry, your font's a little bit weird. I had to stare at it then to see what it was. So, Julie, it's up to you. You've got a choice. Oh, Sam's back. Brilliant. Welcome back, Sam.
Really sorry about that.
It's all right.
The internet went out on me.
We thought so.
I had a feeling it probably had. Mine's been being a bit dicky the last few days, but luckily it's been a bit stable. Right, I was just saying, Sam, we're going to start off by discussing, how people can misconstrue stuff in the paranormal,
Right.
accidentally misidentify stuff in various fields, photographs, EVPs, even spirit boxes. It can happen in,
Yep.
where you mishear stuff. But we're going to do just a little bit of a quiz before we start. It's only 4 little short items, and I'm going to read them out to you, and then I'm going to turn it over to you and Julie, and you've got to tell me whether you think they're genuine reports, or whether you think I've made them up. Okay?
All right.
Right. Do you want to start with the haunted doll? Because this is something that's close to the hearts of the pair of you, because you've both got creepy dollies.
All right.
Okay. Hi, Jace. Right. In 2013, the Madonna family from Houston, Texas, bought one of their children an Elsa doll of Disney Frozen fame. Okay. The doll had a button on its necklace. When you pressed it, the dolly either quoted pieces of famous quotes from the cartoon Frozen, or it sang Let It Go. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
For 2 years, the doll was fine until in 2015, it suddenly started speaking in both English and Spanish. Right? Whenever the button was pressed. There was no button on the doll to allow it to switch languages. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And for 2 years, it had only spoken and sang in English.
Mm-hmm.
Emily Madonna, the mother of the family, said the batteries of the doll were never changed in the 6 years it was in possession of the family.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that the doll would regularly sing and speak even with the power switch off.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? In December of 2019, Mrs. Madoni dumped the doll in the trash, only to have it appear in a piece of furniture in the living room 3 weeks later. Okay?
Yeah.
She questioned the kids to see if they'd actually brought it back in the house, and all the kids denied they'd touched it. Mrs. Madonna stated she believed the kids because she hadn't actually told them she'd chucked it in the bin. Okay? From the moment it reappeared in the house, the doll wouldn't sing Let It Go in English anymore and would only speak to them in Spanish. Right? After that, the doll was double bagged and stuck in the bottom of the rubbish. So the doll was put in 2 bags and stuck right at the bottom of the bin, had rubbish piled on it, and then the family went on holiday for a couple of weeks. When they returned to the house, Elsa was waiting for them in the back garden. So she'd returned again. The doll was finally sent to a friend in Minnesota, and he taped it to the bumper of his truck, and it's been there till this day. True or fake?
Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go on.
All right. There is a story with an Elsa doll that is supposedly haunted. I don't know the full story, though, because I didn't read the full story. So it seems to me that this is either the real story or you've taken the beginning of the story and you've added to it a little bit.
Okay. Sam, do you think that's true or do you think I've made it up?
It's a confusing one. Items like that are known worldwide could possibly have software in it that would change the language.
Yeah.
I don't believe it's paranormal though.
Right.
And I believe that if it was taken out of the trash, it was taken out by a person. So I don't believe it's paranormal.
Right. Okay. So you believe I've made it up?
I get Annabelle vibes off that one.
Is Elsa the sister or Annabelle? Right. Albert and Stella are saying no. Seago is saying 100% fact. Jason wants to know if it's the sister of Annabelle. Right. So, Julie, what are you saying? Yes or no? I've made it up or it's true?
I remember hearing the story, so I'm going to go with yes, but I could be wrong. It's
Okay,
true.
Sam?
I'm going to go yes, but it's not paranormal.
Okay, Jane has said false. Believe it or not, that story is the true story of the Elsa doll. And apparently she is still stuck on the front of that truck to this day. Hi, Jack. Okey coke.
All right.
So can you see how this is going? How it can be so difficult to discern what is true and what is not when it comes to the paranormal, because myths can get their own momentum, as it did with Zozo the Demon, as it did with the Slender Man, and they get a life of their own. Okay?
Yep.
I think the change of language was the thing that gave it away from me.
Yeah.
Because there's possibility there's software for different countries throughout the world, so it can be saleable in different countries.
Yeah.
You know, so that different language would be in that software.
Right. The next one we're going to do is a cryptid. Okay? For those who don't know what a cryptid is, it's basically an animal that is currently not officially recognized in science. Right?
Yep.
This is an Peruvian cryptid called, well, if this is how you pronounce it, it's the Canonada. Now, you're going to have to excuse me with this one because there are Peruvian names in this thing, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing them right, so I might be butchering them. The lake I'm about to tell you is, in fact, a genuine lake, but when I heard the name of it, it made me laugh. Okay? The Canonada is a large serpent-like creature said to reside in Lake. Now, I may butcher this, but it's Lake Titicaca. It's spelled, I'll spell it for you if you want to Google it. Titicaca.
Yeah.
So I'm presuming it's pronounced Titicaca. The lake is the highest of all the large lakes in the world. It is also one of less than 20 ancient lakes in the world. It is estimated to be about 3 million years old, right? There have been Incan, I don't know what you'd call them, pictures, hieroglyphs. I don't know what you'd call them. There is Inca artwork in a nearby ruins of, now I might pronounce this wrong as well, Tiwanaku, spelled Tiwanaku, showing a massive serpent-like monster devouring an Incan, a person, during some sort of ceremony. So the pictures actually depict some kind of Incan ceremony that's going on, and this serpenty thing is eating whoever they're sacrificing. There's also hieroglyphs at this ruin. I ain't saying the name again. Tiwanaku. That shows that Canonada supposedly lives in a temple beneath the lake itself. Oddly enough, in 2000, a group of archaeologists dived down into Titicaca. I've got to stop saying that because I'm going to start laughing. And they did actually discover a temple at the bottom of the lake. It is 660 feet long and 160 feet wide. Oddly enough, there is also a crop terrace there, a pre-Incan road, and the entire settlement is surrounded by a wall that is 260,000 feet in length, right? So it encircles the entire thing. So there's not just a temple at the bottom of the lake. There is a terrace for growing crops. There's a pre-Incan road, and then there's this giant wall. Okay? They brought up, apparently, hundreds of artifacts from inside this temple, one of which was a stone anchor and also bones. The first report of Canonada was done by the Spanish conquerors in 1525, and it was recorded in an expedition log that apparently is now in possession of the Vatican. And the report stated that while they were on the shores of the lake, they were attacked by something they described as a dragon. Okay?
Yep.
The latest reports of Canonada were in 1976. Well, two of the most famous. One of them was in 1976, and a couple on vacation in Peru called John and Jane Cottrell were strolling along the lake when a large serpentine animal, greenish in colour with darker olive spots, apparently lunged out the lake, seized John, dragged him into the water and disappeared. Jane apparently ran to the nearest village, hysterical as you would, and claimed that, you know, they'd been attacked by this thing that had lunged out the lake, and it had took her husband. They searched the lake and the surrounding area for 3 weeks, and his body was never found. But there was suspicions by the police that Jane had actually murdered him and concealed the body, but because there was a body, you know, there was no body ever recovered, they couldn't charge her on it. Oddly enough, Jane died in 1998, and until the day she died, she still insists that her husband was seized by a monster and dragged into the lake. Okay? The last major report was in 2006 when another team of archaeologists saw a huge green-coloured creature about 80 feet long slither out of the trees that bordered the lake and slide into the lake and disappear. There you go, true or not.
I'm pretty sure this one is true because I remember the story of the lake and of the woman, her husband going missing.
What?
No.
So you're saying true?
I'm saying true.
Right. Sam?
I'm actually with Julie on that one, because I think I heard that story too. I did hear about mysteries of the lake, and I think I heard about the woman and that.
Yep.
And I am kind of going by the fact that you struggle with some of those words, that you didn't make it up.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay. Do you want the result?
Mm-hmm.
That one is a product of my imagination.
Back.
Canonada is an anagram of anaconda, and what I described to you is a green anaconda from Peru. The lake itself exists. The temple discovered at the bottom of the lake exists. That is true.
That put me off. Yeah.
And also the stone anchor and the bones being discovered in the temple. The same for the pre-Incan road, and also the wall that surrounds it. See, so that just shows how good my imagination is, and it just shows how convincing it can be for somebody to tell a paranormal story.
You know, the thing that got me was the story about how she said her husband disappeared, because if you research that, there was actually a story like that. Yeah.
This is how paranormal myths perpetuate. Because people like us in the paranormal, you hear so many stories and read so much stuff. When you get told something, it rings a bell with something you've heard that could possibly be in the same area, but a different thing. But what I did with that, I actually researched. You can decide true or false, Pat, but I had to tell that one because I was about to laugh. But if you actually put Canonada into a anagram, you will find it is an anagram of anaconda, and that was why it was a large green serpent with large olive spots. It was basically the giant green anaconda from Peru I was describing. I did actually mix it with fact, with the lake and stuff like that, but you know, it was made up. But the lake itself, they have actually discovered that temple on the bottom of the lake.
Yeah.
It is the highest large lake in the world, and it is also an ancient one. What is interesting about that, if that lake is 3 million years old, part of where that temple is actually built on the bottom of the lake obviously couldn't have been part of the lake at the time, because it's all underwater. Why would they have built a temple underwater and a pre-Incan road and a big wall around it and a terrace to grow crops? So the lake has obviously expanded at some point in its history. But the lake itself is 3 million years old. It's one of only less than 20 in the country. Right. The last two we'll go on to are paranormal beings, the Fae, right? So the first one we will do is the Barghast, okay? Now, the Barghast is often mistaken for a werewolf. It is a large black dog in shape, okay? It is famous for having extremely long claws, extremely long teeth, and bright red glowing eyes. Okay? It likes to ambush its prey. Two of its most interesting things it does is it will hide in a low-hanging branch on a tree, or oddly enough, it will sit on a fence and jump on people as they go past. Its favourite attack method is to jump on people's backs, cling to their back, and bite them on the neck. Even if a Barghast doesn't kill you, to see if you see one, your life is pretty much over anyway, because they are actually considered an omen of impending death, like the Banshee. True or false?
My first thought is, wow, that's far-fetched.
Hi, Tara. Jay says he thinks it sounds true.
Yeah, I'm going to go false, but it could be true.
Okay. Sam?
It's kind of similar to some of the stories around Ireland. So I don't know. I'm going to go true.
Okay. So Julie says false. Sam says true. Jay says false. Pat says it sounds like a black shuck. Jane Newsom says it's false. Does anybody else want to say true or false before I actually reveal it? It's okay, Tara. We're just doing a little experiment at the moment. I'm reading things out. You've got to work out whether they're true or false. Right, Tara's saying false. Okay, I can reveal that the Barghast is actually a true fae. And believe it or not, where I live in, well, I live in Rotherham, but the nearest big city to us is Sheffield. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Black Monk of, is it Stockwell Bypass?
Yep.
There is also apparently reports of a Barghast appearing there. They are always, and they are reported in Ireland a lot, Sam, believe it or not, but they are also, an English thing. They are often described as like a werewolf. They can walk on the back legs. It is reported that they do ambush their prey either from low-hanging branches or jumping off fences, and they do like to attack by landing on people's backs. And apparently, they are considered an omen of death.
That's frightening.
Yeah, there's one reported at Sharon Rectory actually.
Yeah.
So that's why I said true.
Yeah. Right. Wow. So the last one we're doing then is something called the Leshy. Okay. Now the Leshy are Russian wood fairies. They are said to be the children of human women and demons. They are always present in clumps of trees, and oddly enough, particularly like birch trees, but also are always found where the fly agaric mushroom grows. Don't know why. Their speech is said to sound like rustling leaves. They are often green with tangled hair and bark-like skin. They can take on the form of woodland animals such as owls, wolves, bears, and hares. Okay? And it's said they can, when they manifest, they can either appear as big as a tree or small as a mouse. They are normally solitary fae, but if they do live in colonies, they are always ruled over by a czar, spelled C-Z-A-R. Okay? They are considered guardians of the forest. True or false? Are Leshy Russian wood fairies?
What a load of old tosh. Never heard of them in my life.
Okay, so you're saying false, Sam?
Yeah.
Julie?
I'm just trying to think if I've heard of any Russian fairies, like fae stories.
Did you want me to quickly rush through what they are again, before you decide?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, they're Russian wood fairies. They're said to be the children of human women and demons. They're always present in clumps of trees, particularly birch, but also appear where fly agaric mushrooms grow. Okay, they're the red ones with the little white spots on. Okay?
Yeah, which you don't get in Germany, do you?
Well, they're Russian, so what was being in Germany?
Oh, okay.
To do that?
Sorry.
Apparently, when they talk, it is mistaken for rustling leaves. They're often green with tangled hair and bark-like skin. They can take on the form of woodland animals, wolves, owls, badgers, bears, that kind of thing, and can be as tall as a tree or small as a mouse when they manifest. They are solitary, but if they do live in a colony, they are always ruled by a czar. Okay, they are considered guardians of the forest. Right.
They're green Smurfs.
Basically, right. Tara's saying false. Jaycee's saying false. Jane's saying false. I was Kyle in the background grinning, is she?
Yeah, she's grinning. Someone said. I have no idea. I'm just going to say false, like everyone else, but I wouldn't put it past it.
Okay, so everybody's of the opinion they are false. The Leshy is in fact a Russian wood fairy.
There you go.
So they are part of fae lore, and everything I've told you in that list is actually true. So, to start off the discussion on Call My Bluff, all I've done there is I've read 4 separate things out to you concerning different things within the paranormal, and people have got a lot of it wrong and some of it right. Just goes to show how easy it is for things like that to be misconstrued. Now, one of the most common things, obviously, is pareidolia.
Yeah.
Visual pareidolia tends to be more common than audio pareidolia because a lot more people tend to post their photos of, their very grainy pictures of graveyards and say, "What is this?" Seago says he's on a losing streak.
Me too, Seago.
Same as that.
You actually did quite well, Sam.
Yeah, Sam did.
IDQ. So pareidolia is one of them things you've got to be aware of. What a lot of people don't realise is with things like spirit boxes and EVP, it's another one. It's still a form of pareidolia, but it's oral pareidolia, as in audio.
Yeah.
You both do spirit boxes. You've both got to have experienced things in the past where you've heard something and thought it said one thing, and then when you've played it back, it sounded nothing like what you've heard. Would you say you've both encountered that kind of thing?
You go, Sam.
Yeah, sometimes you can get snippets. You can get two snippets that can make one word.
Yeah.
And then you can have words that are very close. Like somebody might say, "Oh, the spirit, it's just after swearing at me," when in fact it said truck and not the other word. Do you know that kind of way? That added with some, some static noise can confuse the ears. But even when it's scanning fast, you can have two syllables that potluck that just join together, and it's like it's a word that's made up with two syllables. It's just it cut off at the first part of the syllable and then added another syllable, and it comes up with this other word, and that can sometimes, can happen with a roll of the dice kind of thing,
Yeah, I agree. I there's been many times where I've been out and you'll hear me in one of my videos. I think it says one thing, then when I'm editing and I listen back to it, it says something completely different. Or perhaps when I'm editing, I may put up on the screen what I think it says, and people that watch the video say, "Oh, but I heard such and such."
Yeah.
So, yeah.
See, for me, this is why I do annotate mine, because it's a double-edged sword. People can read it and hear what you want them to hear, but there's also the other side of the sword where they can hear it and they can read it and go, "Well, that ain't what I heard," So it is a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Do you think, though, that sometimes when it comes to this kind of thing, that maybe what is recorded is not necessarily what a certain person heard, so that maybe something is targeted for a specific person to hear it differently to others, because everybody hears things differently. Hearing is like fingerprints. Everybody's hearing is slightly different. Everybody perceives frequencies as slightly different. Do you think it's possible at any point that a spirit could literally talk to someone and someone would hear it as an English word or an English sentence, and everybody else would just hear it as garble?
Sam?
I think so, because, the question I asked not so long ago is, when people see an apparition, do they actually see it like, an apparition, across a room, or is that image imprinted right in their brain? Do you know? So if it's possible visually, maybe it's possible audibly.
Yeah.
Possibly,
I've also experienced sometimes when I've been out, you'll actually hear things with your own ears, that you may have thought have come through the box or something and it hasn't.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's many different types of, yeah.
There's another phenomenon that people sometimes get mixed up with is sometimes when people breathe,
Yeah.
it sometimes can sound like help me.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, when they're taking a breath, it's very often, even though we do get a lot of help me come up on the radio and that, sometimes a person's breathing, my breathing is very heavy and it comes out on the microphone.
Yeah, as does mine now.
Yeah, sometimes it can be picked up on camera and people think that they're hearing whispers and that, when in fact it's my breathing and it's just sounding funny, you know?
Yeah.
I was going to ask something then, and I can't remember what it was. Oh, that was it, yeah. Do you think certain people are... Do you think people can actually imprint onto a spirit box? Do you think a person could actually, by willpower or whatever it is, force something to come through a box? Because I've done spirit things in the past where if you, and I know Sam's touched on this many times as well, if you talk about something enough, it tends to be mentioned on a spirit box at some point.
Yeah.
So, if you go on, Sam, you go first, because I know you've encountered it a lot.
It's a weird one because we had this case for the last 2 years where I bought a spirit box from a guy in the United States who was constantly bombarded by an entity called Ed. Now, Ed is supposed to be an entity that was resident in this house that he lived in. So his workshop was in this house. And I bought this spirit box, and next thing, I get bombarded by Ed. And then other people are getting bombarded by Ed. But the question is, when Ed keeps coming up, am I forcing it out by asking about Ed? At the same time, sometimes I don't talk about him at all and it comes up.
Yeah.
Now, is it possible that the last owner imprinted Ed into the spirit box when he made it? And it's kind of weird that when he moved house, Ed's hardly showed up at all. And the guy that made the box is in the United States. I'm in Ireland. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But sometimes when you hear a name come out, you start asking questions about that name. And if you keep calling out that name, it encourages that name to be repeated again.
Yeah.
Just like for a time there, I was trying to get them to say Scooby-Doo. Now, if I kept it up long enough, I'm sure Scooby-Doo was going to show up.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of way.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know, whatever's communicating with us sometimes copies what we're saying. So it's an extremely difficult one.
Yeah.
Because we don't know anything about the spirit box. No matter how much we work with it, we still don't know how it actually we can throw theories at it, but we still don't know. We're just drivers basically. Even the people that make the spirit boxes, it's based around scanned radio or radio in general and that, but how they actually communicate, we're still not fully sure how that's done,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Julie?
I think there's probably a couple of different answers there. Something that Sam touched on is if you say something long enough, they're going to repeat it back to you, spirit will. And sometimes you tell them your name, they'll repeat it back to you. But this kind of falls into the same category of the Philip experiment that we were fooling around with on my channel a few times.
Yeah.
You know, can your mind actually make things happen? And
Yeah, because we did get some positive hits with that.
We did. We got some names that corresponded and all of that through the spirit box. So I think it is possible. Yes. Yep.
I actually was getting the name Cole come up on my spirit box.
Yeah.
When it didn't come up before, and that was one of the names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For people who don't know what we were doing, we on Julie's channel we actually invented a totally fictitious couple, wasn't it? Well, family.
Yep. Yeah,
And
family.
basically we decided their names, we decided what their relationships were, and we decided what they were like. And then we basically turned the spirit box on and asked to speak to them, and things started happening over a period of time. You know, so
very good.
yeah, that was interesting, because I've got to be honest, Cole isn't something I've heard mentioned on a spirit box that I've done in the past, either the name or the mineral. Yeah. Seago says, didn't you constantly have the number 4 coming through at one point, maybe misremembering the number? When I was doing the early spirit, when me and Jason were doing the early investigations, I went through a phase where I was getting the number 2 constantly. Everything was to do with 2s, and we did a spirit box session at a place called Uber Stand, and the number 2, if I remember right, was mentioned about 4 or 5 times on the spirit box. Recently, when we've been doing stuff, I've been getting the number 4. Now, the other thing, and I've spoke about this before on the channel, the other number I get a lot, and what was weird about this one is somebody else on the channel mentioned they were noticing exactly the same thing at the same time. And what is really freaky is what I'm about to tell you has actually happened again today. Is when I look at a clock, sometimes it is 13:37. So 1337. And I don't know why, but a lot of the time I'll look at a clock in the middle of the day and it will be 13:37. Now, I discussed this last year on my channel, and somebody in the actual chat said, oh my God, you ain't going to believe this, but I've been noticing exactly the same number. It's now at the same time. And today I actually looked at the clock because I was going to go up and saw Yowi's feeding out. And when I looked at my computer time, it was bang on 13:37. So I do believe that numbers recur for whatever strange reason.
Do you know what's really weird? Ever since I was in my early 20s, I see 127 all the time.
Yeah.
It's so close to your number.
Yeah. Jake says he always looks and it's 11:11.
Yeah. It's a bit like what I mentioned before. Sometimes I get up and I look out the window just as the Amazon truck is pulling up outside.
Yeah.
And I can't hear it because I'm actually high up. Or when my friend arrives unannounced.
Yeah.
I get up and I look out the window and his car's passing or whatever. Do you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a weird one.
Synchronicity. That's what it's called.
See, Tara says she's like Jace. It's always 11:11, but with me, it's always 13:37. And I actually spoke about that on my channel last year, and there was somebody on the channel who was experiencing exactly the same thing. And oddly enough, it happened again today, because I thought, I'll mention that tonight. I actually looked at my computer clock before I went upstairs, and it was 13:37. Tara says there's an episode of Kindred Spirits where they made up a fictional story at a location and things came through the box about the fictional characters. So I believe we can make up hauntings with it. That is exactly what we did. We literally decided what their life was and everything. And we started to get things coming through that we'd actually discussed. DQ says, what is more accurate and more useful when on investigations, a spirit box or the K2? To be honest with you, we don't know how spirits actually contact. For all we know, neither the K2 or the spirit box could be working, or they could, be deadly accurate. We just don't know. Personally, I can't say one over the other because we don't know if they are actually doing what we think they are doing. Because there's a lot of natural electromagnetic fields out there. There's a lot of cables if you get to places that are underground that people ain't going to be aware of, that could be generating fields. There's all sorts of things out there that can be creating electromagnetic fields. Same with the spirit box. Whenever you're out, there are thousands of radio signals and stuff broadcast everywhere every day. So who knows? It could just totally be random chance. Personally, I don't think it is. But when it comes to which one's better, for me personally, I couldn't say one way or the other because I think they both have their uses depending on the situation. Sam?
I'll pick Spirit Box because of some of the stuff that has come up.
Yeah.
I've been doing it I've been doing it a couple of years now. I've done a lot of sessions. I've come up, there's times where I've asked for, the amount of candles that are in front of me right now. And next thing I'm getting number answers.
Yeah.
Colours, I've done colour tests, and they start coming up with colours. They don't often, sometimes they don't get them right. Sometimes they do, they get them spot on. But the fact that you're getting colour answers, it's kind of strange. Being told to F off and all the foul language that comes through. I'd go for the Spirit Box before the K2. And in fact, I don't use the K2 very often anymore because, you've got a lot of stray signals. In fact, a plasma television screen can emit EMF from a quarter of a mile from where it is actually at. So it's, you've got stray radio signals and stuff like that. Yes, you can get responses on cue at times and that, but I think the Spirit Box is in a category of its own with the ITC and stuff. Some people don't believe in bringing a Spirit Box to an actual location because how do you know that you're communicating with the energies that are in the location when you can do Spirit Box sessions at home? You can do Spirit Box sessions on the top of a mountain. You can do them anywhere. You don't have to be in a renowned haunted location to get communication. You can do it in your own house. So bringing a Spirit Box, some people say, actually complicates things. Because you don't know if you're communicating with energies within the area that you're working in, or we don't even know how they transmit. Is the energies around us while we're talking, or are they transmitting like a transmitter from a different realm? We don't know fully for sure.
Julie?
I think I agree with a lot of what Sam said. I believe I would take the Spirit Box over the K2 any day. The problem is a lot of people, you need to spend a lot of time with the Spirit Box, as Sam has, to learn the difference in the voices. And as she said, it's not always guaranteed whether you're speaking to somebody from the location or whether you're speaking to, King Richard or something. But K2, when you walk into a place, you're supposed to do base readings and, you got to investigate your environment to see what's going to be affecting the K2, and a lot of people don't. And you get a lot of false negatives, a lot of negatives with it. So
See, what I like about the K2 is it's known that electromagnetic fields can have weird effects on the human brain. It can actually cause you to hallucinate. So in the respect where even if you don't use the K2 as a communication device, it is still useful as something to and use it for the purpose it was originally designed to be used
The
for,
EMF.
which is
Yeah.
detecting EMF.
Yeah.
So, you know, in that respect, in terms of that, I would say the K2 is most useful. But when it comes to equipment, I think you have to use what you are comfortable with and what you get the best results. I very rarely get very good electronic voice stuff, EVPs.
Yeah.
You know, one, I don't leave recorders down very often, and two, I really ain't got the patience to sit through hours of recordings after and listen to them, to be honest with you, because 99% of the time you could be sitting there listening to 2 hours of silence. Not my idea of fun. So I don't tend to use recorders very often. I have had some success with them, but like I say, it's not something I do a lot of the time. I like a lot of the old school stuff, and I think a lot of it might start making a comeback because, you know, there's a lot of doubt and misconception out there now about a lot of the electronic devices, and then you got all the apps and all this lot, and they keep being discredited, and there's arguments surrounding them. And I think a lot of the old school stuff might start to make a return. Things like compasses and stuff like that.
The one thing about the K2, what I would recommend, and you can get them for less than £15, is a digital EMF meter as well, which will have temperature as well. So if the K2 goes off and the other one goes off, then, you know, you have one thing back and the other up, you know.
Yeah.
And when you have a digital readout, you have a more accurate reading rather than dependent on lights. You'll have, you know, say if it was 2 milligauss, you'll have 2 point such and such. You won't get that as accurate with a K2 meter, you know. So, you know, you can get these digital ones that when they go up as far as a certain milligauss, they'll go orange and it'll still beep and it'll still flash and stuff. But I would suggest sort of backing the K2 with a digital one. And another thing is with a lot of people, some people, you know, they go into an area and they feel static.
Yeah.
You can get little static detectors for about a tenner.
Yeah.
It'll flash. It'll turn off. Go off if there's static and stuff like that. I have a few of them there, and they were only a couple of pounds. They were very, 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 very. You know, they're very, very inexpensive. You know.
Going back to the numbers thing, Pat says she sees 707 or 717 a lot. And DQ says he prefers old school invests. Have you ever considered doing an investigation, Sam, with old school stuff like compasses and handles and all that kind of thing?
With our investigations now, we just take a camera and a spirit box.
Yeah.
You know, because we're moving around all the time. We're going through trees and bushes and stuff. And it's not the stereotypical ghost hunt anymore. In fact, we're going to be doing an investigation soon where us walking around is going to be completely impossible.
Yeah. We're
going to have to rig the car with IR lights on the front of it and have in-car. We have to drive around in a car. We're talking about an area of 10 miles that we have to do surveillance on.
Yeah.
We're doing a surveillance approach on this one, you know. But yeah, I mean, like you got the powder, you got people bringing you know, little balls and pouring the powder on it, and if the ball moves, you'll know about it.
Yeah.
And I was actually going to do a video at one stage where I have to do an investigation, but I only got £10 to spend, excluding the camera.
Yeah.
And I have to get all my items in the pound shop.
Okay, that'll be interesting.
So you got, you know, them little butterflies that with the springy wings and things.
Yeah.
You got that. You got balls of wool, which you can hang off doors, and you'll actually see the airflow moving when you're hanging, you know, wool off the doors. So, there's always going to be, when somebody's moving about, there's always going to be a turbulence and stuff like that. But you can actually see it when you have lines of wool. You got flashy balls in the pound shop. There's all sorts of things. You just have to go in and sort of just imagine what you go through all the stuff and say, is that useful or not? What way can you be useful? And sometimes you have to think outside the box that way, So it's good to sort of give yourself a budget, say £10, £10.
Yeah.
Go into the pound shop. You'll be surprised what you'll come out with,
Yeah.
Yeah. Julie, what's your opinion on old school stuff?
I would actually kind of like to, I mean, myself included, I'd have to do it, but I'd like to see people kind of go back to old school and go back to the roots and start, because a lot of the different apps and, digital stuff and electronic equipment and that complicates things in some cases. As Sam said, a lot of times now I'll just go out and I'll have my spirit box and camera, and that's it. So yeah, that'd be interesting. I like Sam's idea of the $10 thing and just make stuff up. Yeah,
you'd be surprised what you might come out with.
Yeah,
we're sort of trying to incorporate too, sort of, kind of like military surveillance. You're maybe up on top of a hill looking down on an area, and we got the binoculars to do it with the invisible night vision. Where, in military terms, when you have the night vision, you can't have the red lights, otherwise your enemy's going to spot you. But I can get a good distance with one of these binoculars, and you can cover a great area and stuff.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of looking into that area because I was looking up about the history of night vision and stuff like that. So I was looking up at military surveillance and stuff like that. And I started I started to bring that into the investigations when we're talking about forests and woods and stuff. Not just going to one little corner, putting out flashy balls and stuff like that. I don't have the patience for that.
Yeah.
I'd rather just scope the whole area.
Yeah.
The area that we're doing, scope it all. And, that area, the woods, the woods that we went to recently, we had about 3 miles of a walk in the whole area. So you're constantly looking through gaps in trees and all that kind of stuff,
Yep.
Right. Here's a question for you both, and I'll start with Julie on this one. Do you think that a lot of YouTube paranormal teams now have got a bit too stale, and they all do exactly the same thing? Like they all use the cat balls and they all use this, that, and the other. Do you think that the community as a whole could benefit if people maybe started to specialize in certain areas and avoid others, and increase the spectrum of things they're using and things they're trying?
Yeah.
Do you think it's become stagnated where no matter what channel you watch now, they're all doing exactly the same kind of thing?
Absolutely. I think even I've recently taken a step back and thought about this myself, because even some of the things that I do, I'm like, it's like you're doing the same thing every single time, and we need to come up with different ways to think outside the box, so not everyone is doing something. The problem is we see one person doing something and, people might see them catch something amazing, and everyone wants to have a piece of that pie. Everyone wants to try it, and then they just keep running with it. So I think if we went back to old school, where you were using any kind of bits and pieces, bells on a string in a certain place and powder on the floor and things, I think that it would mix it up, and I think that we would get more genuine results as well, perhaps. Do you know what I mean?
Sam?
I think, shows like Ghost Hunters International and Ghost Adventures, to name but a few, set the script, and most people followed it, including myself. And that's where people are not sort of thinking outside the box. And if we're paranormal investigators, we should be thinking outside the box. You know, because how do we know that that approach is 100% the way we should do it?
Yeah.
Like I followed that script myself, putting out the REM pods and the flashy balls and sticking the camera on them for ages and all that kind of stuff, and locked off cameras and blah blah blah. And I mean, like, I've worked with people with tons and tons and tons of equipment. Do you know? And when you think about other professions like military surveillance, police surveillance, all that kind of thing, I thought that's an approach that I think is a bit different. But I don't think it's catching on for some reason. I don't know. You know, I just wanted to... I took a break from the paranormal for a while to sort of reset. And the investigations that I started going out on, I started putting in my mindset that I'd never seen a paranormal investigation before. So if there was paranormal out there, how would I look for it?
Yeah.
And my way of looking for it is get your camera out and scope out the whole place. And go over it twice or three times. Yeah. Keep moving, keep looking around every corner, behind every tree. Just keep doing it. And then try to keep your audio clean as well, so you may pick up something on your audio as well. I mean, like, I have thousands of pounds worth of equipment, you know that.
Yeah.
And when do you see me using half of it?
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yep.
Do you know, sometimes I was ordering stuff and I was going, I'm really excited for this piece of equipment. And then I get it and I go, it's not that exciting, really, is it? For the amount I paid for. There's so many people making these little boxes with flashy lights and stuff like that. And I'm saying, is it really, really worth it? Is it really... Yes, some of these devices, the flashy lights go off, but I want more than that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yes, maybe it is communication. Maybe the K2 going on and off could be communication. The REM pods going off, that could be communication. But to me, where do you go from there?
Yeah.
How do you prove that is communication? How do you know that this energy is paranormal energy?
Yeah.
Because we can't see it, and that's why the visuals and your audio is the two important things for me. Yeah. Do you know?
Pat's made a good point there. She says people make ridiculous statements to get you to watch. This is another element that's been, that's going on in the community lately. Do you think with all these clickbait titles and everything, it's becoming too much about the razzmatazz and showmanship and less about actual genuine investigation? Sam?
It is, but it's partly YouTube's fault. Do you know? In order to get your video out there, yes, some of us don't care if we make money or not, or get views or not.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we all have channels and we all want them to grow. And that temptation to put that clickbait out there is something that's something that gets the video out there. Do you know? The thing is, the clickbait that you put, if you put out clickbait, it's very often the negative clickbait that draws the viewer. Do you know, like, the most success I had in the last month or two was when I fell through the floor in
Yeah.
the abandoned army camp and I got injured and that. Everybody wanted to, there was more people that wanted to see that than actually wanted to see my paranormal investigation.
Yeah. Yeah.
I fell through the floor. It's very clickbaity, but I knew it was. But I was kind of doing an experiment at the same time.
Yeah.
In putting that out there, and people were going, "Oh, Sam fell through the floor. Let's watch this." But then you put out an investigation that maybe not interested,
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Sam. Well,
Yeah, it's just the way YouTube works. Unfortunately, what we are on is an entertaining platform. It's an entertainment based platform, and that's where the problem lies when it comes to factual stuff.
Yeah.
And this is, some people out there they do genuine stuff, but they have these scary thumbnails and titles, which isn't 100% honest, but they have to dangle the carrot some way, sort of thing.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we all have channels. We all want them to grow in some way. I still choose not to do the clickbait, and that's where my problems are. Do you know?
Yeah.
I think that when you start YouTube and you're coming into the paranormal field, you have to really sit down and have a think about what you want, because there are two sides to the paranormal on YouTube. You've got the paranormal entertainment side, where you're going to be creating entertainment, making things happen for that side of paranormal. If you want to actually genuinely catch paranormal happenings, you need to set yourself up for the fact that you may not get many views.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're going to go out for hours on end and you're not going to catch anything, and that's all people are going to see. But it's also the real side of the paranormal. So I think people have really got to take a deep look at that, But yeah, they do that too often. Clickbait.
Do you think programs like Most Haunted not getting renewed TV contracts and moving on to YouTube are going to cause things to go even further off skew or not?
Yeah, I do. I think that TV shows, in a way, set up unrealistic expectations because, as I said, you can go out and you can spend a whole night in a haunted location and get absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And these TV shows don't show the whole picture. They don't show people sitting around catching nothing. They'll cut the little pieces up where something happens and shove it into a half-hour, 1-hour show. And people expect that that's what's going to happen, and it doesn't happen that way.
Yeah.
So them coming over here to YouTube, I think, is just going to create that kind of competition that, is already there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sam?
We had way back years ago, we had Andy Matthews and the paranormal shows in Britain. I can't remember what the UK's or Britain's greatest haunts and Northern Ireland's greatest haunts. Half the time, nothing happened.
Yeah,
and that's why we still don't have it now. Do you know? If you have a show for 1 hour, you have to have something going off, something kicking off every couple of minutes.
Yeah.
In order to do that. And some say that they spend a whole weekend putting that thing together. I mean, like, I've been on a TV show and it was a half an hour show and it wasn't to do with the paranormal, but they spent the whole week there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think a lot of the time, I've heard rumors about certain TV shows, they say that they have night 1, night 2, and night 3, and all the rest of it. And I've heard conflicting stories of that, where they've only filmed for a couple of hours and went.
Yeah.
Do you know? And that's, you know.
Yeah.
And pretended they spent overnight in a location. But, you know, when it comes to a half an hour show or an hour show, every couple of minutes something has to happen. If it's not happening, they have to make it happen. It's the entertainment industry. At the end of the day, you know, people that are not clued up in the paranormal watch the shows because it entertains them.
It's the titillation in it, and the you know, the anticipation of jump scares and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, in our case, we go out, a lot of the time we get nothing.
Mm-hmm.
What way can we entertain? If it's myself and Rachel, if we're mucking about some of the time and cracking jokes and stuff, that could be the entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than faking stuff, which we don't want to do. We want to be as genuine as possible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that, I don't know, that still doesn't, you're doing something that's not paranormal to entertain. I don't know. It's a difficult one. But certainly YouTube, YouTube has got more people out and more people interesting, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
But to have a big paranormal channel is very, very difficult, because at the end of the day, I think we're still stuck in the conspiracy theory section. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With the flat earthers and stuff like that. You know.
Yeah.
You know, it's a niche market. It's not. You know.
Yeah. Jack Eblin says she hates it when she watches a live vid with chat and they are on 2 or 3 platforms at the same time. If so, I'm on YT. I can't see the questions on Facebook or TikTok or whatever. There is a disconnected interaction.
Yeah.
Do you both believe it's important to foster that viewer interaction? Because, you know, it's one thing I try to do on here is I like to get people in the chat involved in what's going on, and that's why I read the questions out and stuff like that. Do you think that that's important on YouTube? And do you think all this cross-platform stuff is starting to have more of a negative impact?
I believe that there's a place for the viewer interaction. I mean, you have to keep them interacted to some degree to keep their interest.
Yeah.
When we're here and we're at home and we're doing podcasting and stuff like that, it gives you the opportunity to sit down, answer their questions, and fully interact with them. If you're on a location and you're doing a live, it's very difficult to be able to communicate with everyone and give them the attention they want and focus on what you're doing. It's very, very difficult. So, yeah. Sam?
Yeah, I'm 100% with Julie. I mean, like, I love the podcasts. I love interacting with G. But when I'm on an investigation, I just want to do my job. I don't want to be reading the chat. Even though I love being on live chats myself. I love interacting and all the rest of it. But to me, it's just too much of a distraction. I just rather just get on with the job. If it was to go live, I would say, listen, folks, I may not interact with you. You can chat amongst yourselves or whatever. But we'll take some breaks and we'll stop and we'll talk to you. But at the moment, I'm focusing on what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
But does that work? I don't know. I would just rather just pre-record and concentrate on my job. But then other people say, well, the live streaming is the way to go, because then you can't be accused of faking in that.
Yeah.
But then I'm thinking, if you got a reputation of being honest and truthful with your viewers, I don't think it matters whether you pre-record or go live.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you go live, you will get more viewers. it gives that extra push. But I go to an investigation. I'd rather just do the job.
Yeah.
You know, I'd rather just concentrate on what we're doing. Half the time, I don't even, when I have a camera in my hand, I'm not even focusing on that. I'm focusing on what I'm actually doing, and just making sure that the camera is pointing in the right place. Do you know that kind of way? I don't know. And then you have to have proper good Wi-Fi to go live, and not all places are like that. Especially big castles with big walls and basements and stuff like that. And when it starts glitching and stuff, it gets a bit annoying and that. I'd rather have clean pre-recorded stuff than choppy.
So here's a question for you both then. Do you prefer to do your investigations as videos, or do you prefer to do them as lives?
Videos.
Videos, yeah.
Yeah.
You prefer videos, Sam?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Videos. Hands down. Yep.
Do you know there was people out there, and there was big YouTubers. I prefer to do lives because I do the live, I go home, I don't have to do anything. So they're not even reviewing their footage, and they call themselves Paranormal Investigators.
Yeah.
They're not even reviewing their lives. They're getting their viewers to do the viewing for them and reviewing them. Do you know, if you take screenshots, guys, and put it on my Facebook and that, that's giving the job to somebody else that you don't know if they're going to do a good job.
Yeah.
Do you know? It's helpful, and people feel part of it. I understand that. But when you're doing a pre-record and that, you have to go through the whole lot yourself.
Yeah.
And you sort of trust yourself. And that, I know it's hard work and that, but I'm old-fashioned that way. I just rather do it, you know?
Yeah.
A question off Tracy. She says, I have a question, please. What is your favourite paranormal channel? Right, I'll answer that first. I'm going to be brutally honest here and say I watch very few paranormal stuff on YouTube anymore. The only two I actually regularly watch are basically sitting on the panel with me right now. I do like to occasionally go on, just type in something like paranormal and then pick some total random tiny channel that I have never heard of, doing some out of the way place that nobody's ever investigated, and I actually find that they are where you tend to get your better quality paranormal investigating. You know, you do get the occasional ones who try to run with the mob and do all the glamour and stuff, but a lot of the time, if you just go out and go, you know, and YouTube onto the search, just type in paranormal, just pick some random little team with, you know, with a low number of followers doing some random place in, you know, some little town in America somewhere, or some little town out in Australia, and you just watch them. I think 99% of the time you'll get a better quality paranormal show than you will off the big names in the community. Julie?
I kind of agree with you in the sense that really the only channels that I've been watching lately is like you guys, being here with you, Brett, and watching Sam's videos. I was watching Sam's last night instead of sleeping, actually. Your in-car nighttime drive. There is one other channel that I do enjoy watching called Live Sci-Fi, but not all of, we don't have the same beliefs, but I like the way that they do things because everything is like, they show you the setup. They'll leave cameras rolling in case anything happens. They do a lot of things old school, you know. They do a lot of board work, like with the Ouija board. They do EVP sessions and stuff. It's all kind of just investigation. It's not drama or so That's about it.
Sam?
Yeah. At the moment, my favorite is these podcasts, and obviously Julie's cemetery videos in Australia, because we don't have the same landscape as Australia and that.
Yep.
My as far as commercial stuff, it was Northern Ireland's greatest haunts with Andy Matthews.
Yeah.
Oh, real old school stuff, real good research, no bullshit, good stuff. Modern. Recently, I started watching Twin Paranormal. Now, I don't agree with some of the devices and some of the methods, but I agree totally with the attitude and the respect that they show. I mean, like, they come into a place and say, listen, this here is a device. It's called a REM pod. And if you come along and, the explaining, rather than, some people go, wait, can you touch the REM pod? An ordinary person wouldn't have known what a REM pod was. So how would you ask a spirit, can you touch my REM pod? They think, maybe, is that a rude word? That kind of...
Yeah.
That's why I say bell. They explain very, very kindly and stuff. And then at the end, they would say, listen, I don't know if you're stuck here or not. We're going to go out the door right now. And if you'd like to come with us, you can't follow us home, but you're free to go wherever you want.
Yeah.
You don't have to be stuck here. And that empathy, that's what I haven't seen in a lot of channels. And those guys, they really are doing a great job.
Yeah.
And I think, they're not, are they 250,000 or, I don't know. I don't know if they're that huge, but they're growing. Far better content than Ghost Adventures. As far as I'm concerned, because Ghost Adventures always have this gory reenactments at the beginning. I think it's just way too much.
Yeah.
And they put a lot of work into it. They do a video once a week, and they spend the whole week putting it together. And it's like an art form for them. I've seen them on a podcast. They're really good, honest guys. I don't agree with the torch method and a couple of things like that.
Yeah.
But we all have our own little likes and dislikes in that kind of line,
Yeah, of course.
Jackie says she loves your car drives. Tara says she watches them from time to time as well. Very respectful. Right, we're at the beginning of 2022. What do you think are going to be the buzzwords for the paranormal community in terms of investigations this year?
Buzzwords meaning?
Like, we went through a phase of Zozo, we went through a phase of Slender Man, we went through a phase of poltergeists. What do you think the buzzwords are going to be for 2022?
I think for a while, in my opinion, people are going to be running with the demons. I think that UFOs are catching on a lot of ground. I think we're going to see more UFO stuff. Yeah, that's probably going to be my prediction, and we're going to see a huge.
Oh God, I hope not.
We're going to see a huge rise in people using apps. We already are.
Yeah, I'll agree with that one. Sam?
Yep.
I reckon there's still a bit of mileage in creepy ass dolls and Dybbuk boxes.
Do you know? I actually think dolls are going to be a big thing this year.
Yeah.
I really do think dolls are going to be a big thing, or various other haunted objects, as people like to describe them as. But I agree with both points on that. I think apps are going to be becoming more mainstream. Fingers down my throat and a sick bucket. And I do think I do think dolls are going to be a big thing this year again. I really do, because I think I think the poltergeist thing has been beaten to death now, and that they need something else that is going to be easy enough to reproduce en masse, if you know what I mean.
Are we in demon season right now? I think.
Yeah, we're still in demons, but there again, demons are always a surefire winner every single time.
Yeah.
Seago says he's been obsessed with the UFO research lately. I would love it if we started to get a few more UFO
and Bigfoot, I'd like to see come up more.
because as you know on here, UFO and cryptids are two of my favourite paranormal subjects, even more so than the ghost hunting, I think. So I would love it if they started to get a bit more traction.
Absolutely.
Do you know with me going out to forests and stuff like that? You can cover a lot of things. You can cover ghosts. You can cover any strange thing. I do crack jokes. If you see Bigfoot, don't tell me. Because if I see Bigfoot and I'm out on my own in the middle of a forest, I will shit a brick.
Yeah.
But, you're out doing surveillance in an area, a wooded area and stuff like that. God knows what you're going to come across.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah.
It's not going to, you go out to the woods, you may not get anything. But if you keep going back, you're bound to, at some stage, find something,
Yeah.
Flat earthers seem to be getting a lot of traction lately. Do you think they're going to start breaking into the mainstream paranormal community? Do you think we're going to get a flat earther channel?
There's already a few out there.
Yeah.
Whether they grow or not, I don't know. That'll be yet to be seen.
Right. Pat says Nettie gets servoed.
I watch a lot of I watch a channel called Fight the Flat Earth and Simon Dan and stuff like that. And what I'm learning from, the Flat Earth content is they don't seem to agree on one specific model.
Yeah.
And a lot of them have pilots, seafarers, people that Marines, scientists. There's a lack of where there is with the globe earth model, and the globe earth model. They come up with these the circumference of the earth and all these calculations, and the flat earther comes on and go, no, that's fake. Can you tell me why it's fake? Oh, it said it in the Bible. Yeah. I'm going, the Bible's not a scientific document. Do you know what and when you see a debate, you often see the flat earther and they're going, and they're putting in, they don't come across very professional. They're, a lot of them are very angry and stuff, and I don't think it's...
Yeah.
It's one of them conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, who cares what shape the earth is in?
Exactly.
At the end, and it's led to so many conspiracy theories. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I have a friend now that, thinks that the government is out to get us big time. I mean, like we're talking about this stuff a little bit too much. And at the end of the day, you still have to live your life. And there's a conspiracy about every single thing, and it cannot be good for your mental health.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Seago's made an interesting point there. He's put the more recent stuff the Pentagon released in regards to the unidentified flying aircraft that they reported last year, which apparently there's more to come, has somewhat destigmatized the subject. I tend to agree with that. I think now that the US military has actually started admitting and showing that they've got video evidence of craft, I'll describe them as, I won't say spaceships, UFOs, for want of a better word, because UFO doesn't necessarily mean it's, coming from outer space. I do believe that we are going to get a massive jump in UFO stuff on YouTube and within the paranormal, because I do believe what's happened, the middle of last year with the military releasing all that video stuff, as in some way mainstreamed. It's took it out of the fringes and put it more mainstream.
Yeah. The reason why some of it is secretive is because, obviously, for national security. I mean, like,
Yeah.
they have to eliminate the fact that, these may or may not be aircrafts from enemy countries.
Yeah.
That's why there has to be a little bit of secrecy there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same with Area 51. Area 51 is a place for designing planes and testing planes. That's why you're not allowed in there.
Yeah.
Because if it was common knowledge, that information could get into the wrong hands. That's why there's secrecy.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
DQ mentioned there about Skinwalker
Yeah,
Ranch.
I was going to bring that one up.
The site, I only seen 1 or 2 episodes of the Paranormal Investigating and that, with the scientists and that, the screens and the EMF readings, and they weren't just doing the EMF readings on the ground, they were digging down, and then they were sending balloons up to take readings from above and below ground. Like we go around with our K2 and that, we're doing it at ground level, but they were digging down and they were going up. Do you know?
Mm-hmm.
And our ghost hunting, we bring a bag, we bring a REM pod, a K2 and a couple of things like these. Mm-hmm. They had a table full of laptops with sensors and all that kind of stuff. I thought that stuff was class.
Yeah. See, the Skinwalker Ranch, it's like paranormal mecca. It's got UFOs, it's got ghosts, it's got cryptids, it's basically everything that could possibly be paranormal has actually occurred at the Skinwalker Ranch. If what it's claimed has happened there is actually true, it is a paranormal mecca.
Did the man that owned that, when those experiments were going on, did he sell it again?
Yes, it's been sold to a private company and it's all been fenced off and stuff now.
Oh.
And it's actually patrolled by a security company with big fences and security. But there is rumours it's actually been bought by another organisation, shall we say, that is also interested in the paranormal and are going to start releasing material from there.
Elon Musk.
Yeah.
You know what I find interesting about the Skinwalkers is that you hear a lot about the Skinwalkers consuming animals and things like that, but you never really hear of attacks on us from the Skinwalkers. That's what I find interesting.
Yeah. There are a number of reports where the Skinwalkers have actually attacked people.
Yeah.
But, I don't believe there were any actual human attacks at Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah.
It was all mainly aimed towards the cattle and stuff. DQ says his last sleep paralysis they had was scary as hell. 2 aliens walked in my room and stared at me for a few seconds. That's because they were sizing you up for a butt plug and we'll be back soon.
That's gonna hurt.
Yeah, they were sizing you up for the anal probe there.
Oh yeah, you're.
Look forward to the next visit.
Yeah, that's gonna hurt.
Sorry, DQ.
Pat Middleton says, "Do you believe man landed on the moon? I've been having debates today about it. This is one conspiracy theory I do think there's evidence to argue that they didn't." Sam?
I believe they did,
Mm-hmm.
but the interview was kind of. It's like they were told to hold something back. It was kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know, the worried look on their faces and stuff like that? I do believe that they did, land on the moon, but there's a lot more. I don't know. There was a lot more. There was. I mean, the way back in the days, possibly even now, you're told what to say. I don't know, there was something held back in those when they got back. There was something that they were not supposed to talk about, which is kind of weird.
Julie?
But
sorry, go on, Sam. I thought you finished.
yeah, the other conspiracy was that it was all done in his Hollywood studio. I don't think so.
Julie?
I really don't.
I think there are a few inconsistencies. Like the photo of his boot didn't match his spacesuit and all of that kind of stuff. But Sam touched on something interesting too. If they did go there, they must have been told to be quiet, or they must have been told by some other civilization or something not to go back. Because why haven't they gone back?
Yeah.
If they had the technology to do it back then, surely our technology now could reach there much more easily. You know what I mean?
I personally don't believe they did. I do believe it was staged. I think one of the most compelling pieces of evidence is the photograph where you can actually clearly see a boot directly under the jet nozzle of the lander. Now, there's no way a boot could physically be there if that lander had actually landed there, because it would have blasted the dirt out the way, and you can clearly see the boot print underneath. I believe it was done because America had to win the space race. Whoever won the space race was going to be become the major superpower, and Russia was close to doing it as well. The other thing that brings things into doubt is the Van Allen belt, which is between us and the moon, that they have to pass through to get to the moon. Now, that belt is a very highly concentrated radioactive belt. Now, they claim they went through it in 52 seconds, or what I think it was 53 seconds, so they weren't exposed to it enough. Basically, from what I've read of scientific reports, 53 seconds would have been more than enough to have serious effects on their bodies, and to shield a craft to get it through the Van Allen belt. They simply hadn't got the technology or the materials at that time to produce lightweight radiation protection.
I'm looking into a case that's happening here in Donegal where a substance, a mineral called mica, has contaminated the concrete blocks here, and the houses are cracking to pieces and that.
Okay.
And I promised these people I would do a video on this to get get things out there. So I had to find out exactly what mica is, and I got some, and I mixed up some concrete samples as well, because I'm going to be able to show you a sample that I was given and a sample that I made myself, and how similar they are, sort of thing. But apparently this mica, which is like rock, but it kind of comes off like flakes, like fish scales, and apparently that is part of it's part of the radioactive shields in spacecraft, and that, So I don't know. I mean, like I do get that part of that radioactive belt and that, but I don't know. I don't know enough about the shielding, the radioactive shielding in aircrafts or in the shuttles to know either way.
And the other thing that throws a lot of doubt for me is to land to first get a craft off the planet, and then to land it on a moon that is orbiting around that planet requires a lot of computing power, an awful lot of computing power. They were working with computers in '69 that have got less power than your average modern calculator. That for me, there is just, and with the photographic evidence and things like the way they actually move on the moon is a little bit odd as well. But personally, I don't believe they did, but I believe they had to make out they did because of the space race and the consequences of what would have happened if Russia had got their film finished first.
Yeah,
basically.
It's a bit like YouTube.
Yeah.
Clickbait.
Yeah, clickbait. Right, that's an interesting one, DQ. There was a lot of controversy surrounding the Hadron Collider. They said another conspiracy was CERN turned on their Large Hadron Collider back in 2008. It took us into a completely different parallel universe, similar to the film Cloverfield Paradox. Hi, Kim. That's quite interesting because they weren't actually sure what was going to happen when they turned that collider on. Anything could have been possible at that point when you're, when you're generating particles up to the speed that they can actually collide and split. It does make you wonder what kind of energies were released, and if a lot of the paranormal, particularly things with like ghosts and hauntings, is connected to energy. Who's to say what could have happened?
Yeah.
Seago says the only thing I'd argue is that I honestly do believe there's a level of advanced tech kept by government beyond what that's made publicly available. I.e., where you come on. I totally agree with that, Seago. And that has been proven time and time again with things like the stealth bomber. That thing was kept ultra secret. And it years and years, and a lot of the technology connected to the stealth bomber. A lot of ufologists will claim that it was designed deliberately on what they were keeping at Area 51, and the technology to make it radar invisible. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the same.
But I do agree, the government, and it will always be that way. They will always be in possession of technology that is far more advanced than what Joe Public has access to.
Yeah. I mean, like, there was a time where we didn't know what Gen 3 night vision was.
Mm-hmm.
That we were told about Gen 2, and we could get Gen 2, but secretly the military were using Gen 3, but now we know about Gen 3, so what are they working on now?
Exactly. There's obviously a Gen 4 they're already using. Because the military will never release any technology until it's no longer tactically advantageous to keep it a secret.
Yeah.
So that they've obviously got something better at this point.
Yeah, they want to stay one step ahead of anyone else.
Stay one step ahead of everything, Mm-hmm. And again, night vision comes back to ufology because it is rumored that night vision technology was developed from technology that was recovered directly from the Roswell crash.
Believe so, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, they've never actually cracked night vision in the same way as ordinary film and photography, where digital became better. Digital night vision is not better than the tube night vision. Night vision is actually still being used as the preferred method by the military.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they haven't. Maybe they have now, and computers have advanced. It's like I says, before I asked somebody about, will we ever get the theories in the paranormal answered? And they says, well, last 20 years seen a big massive boost in technology.
Mm-hmm.
God knows what's going to happen in the next 20 years. Do you know?
Yeah. If you listen to a lot of people who are deeply involved in the UFO theories and stuff, they will claim that governments have been actually collaborating with off-planet entities, shall we say, from even before the Roswell crash itself. That was why they got there so quick and recovered everything as fast as they did, because they were already in collaboration with extraterrestrials, should we say, for want of a better word. And that is quite a common theory in hardcore UFO followers.
Yeah. My imagination of what would be a sort of alien discovery would be a planet similar to Earth, which hasn't been discovered yet, but everything on that planet, like our version of fish, none of that exists. It's all completely different because it's not associated with Earth.
Yeah.
So we would see creatures that we would never imagine existed.
Yeah.
If that was possible,
But even if there's another planet out there that is very Earth-like, all it needs is to have very minor differences in the composition of its atmosphere, and it would probably be toxic for us and produce totally different types of life forms.
Yeah.
Even some as stupid as, say, there being 10% more carbon dioxide in their atmosphere than there is in Earth. That would be, significantly enough to change what develops on that planet.
Or it would change evolution for certain.
Yeah. Without a doubt.
Just like temperature is changing evolution here,
Yeah.
There was something I read not so long ago about one of the alien creatures that had been so-called kept in a government facility, and they were saying that the alien stayed alive for some time, but eventually it perished because
that was apparently from the Roswell crash. They recovered a live one.
Yeah,
and it lived for about 7 months. So certain individuals claim
our food couldn't sustain it, and that's actually what killed it.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
There was I think there was four aliens, I think, from what I can remember, were actually recovered from the crashes, and this has come from people who were directly involved.
Yeah.
With the recovery process. This is transportation pilots, people who were in the army at the time, in the Air Force at the time, and got there to help recover the pieces. And they were actually sworn to secrecy, sort of thing, under pain of death. They had to sign the Official Secrets Act. Some of them have actually came forward now, and they admitted that 2 of them were actually dead on the crash. The claim is, I ain't saying they admitted to, the claim is that 2 of them were actually dead on the scene. One was severely injured and died shortly after, and then one of them lasted. There's varying time scales, but some people say it lasted 7 months, some people say it lasted 3 years, but did eventually die. But apparently the claims are they did learn to communicate, and this was where a lot of, because if you think about it, from 1947 onwards, there was a lot of big jumps in technology.
Oh yeah.
Even the war had just happened, and war itself causes massive acceleration in development of stuff. But it continued after the war, and instead of slowing down like it normally would after a war, it actually accelerated. And this is why they say there was a lot they learned from Roswell, and there are rumours that Roswell is not the only one that occurred. They believe, I think it was 11 different type of craft were being stored at Area 51, or more accurately, Dreamland, which I believe was called S4 or S6, which was an area just outside of Area 51. And apparently some of these ships were allegedly gifted by the extraterrestrials for us to learn from.
Wow.
Bob Lazar worked on the propulsion system of one that was basically your typical flying saucer type thing. And from what he claims, it had got a power source that they couldn't work out. It had got some highly unusual properties. It could make things float and stuff like that, but they could not reverse engineer what was on it because it was so far advanced. They simply didn't understand what it was doing. But he has gone into great detail on how the ship he worked, and it was to do, from what I can remember, it was 3 drums that were anti-gravity generators that were actually pivoted and this was what allows the 90-degree turns and the high speed turns and stuff like that, because apparently when you generate a high anti-gravity field, anything within inside that field is not subject to G-force. So you can literally do a 90-degree turn and not be subject to the G-force as you would in a normal aeroplane. The other apparently interesting thing it does is it bends light to the point it makes whatever it is powering becomes invisible because light bends around it.
Yeah.
I thought that was Anton Dekloff. Oh, the alien autopsy was most definitely a fake. Yeah.
Oh, it was a recreation.
Yeah.
It was a recreation.
Yeah.
Because they lost the original footage or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know?
Yeah.
DQ asked a question there about parallel universe. Where is that?
Mm-hmm.
Where is my mouse? I don't want to be knocking myself off here.
Hang on. I'll scroll up and look.
Do
you believe in a multiverse, a parallel universe somewhere out there? There is another you doing similar to you. Yeah. I believe dimensions are infinite, and I think every time you make a decision of even the smallest thing, there is somewhere out there where you made different decisions. It is just infinite because, depending on what decision you made, basically carries on your reality in that one. But there are then other universes created where you made other decisions from the same problem.
Yeah, I mean, like, parallel universe comes into the paranormal lot because, we're talking about, say, ITC and that. Or can we definitively say that we're talking to dead people? No, we can't. No. Can we say that we're talking to a parallel universe? No, we can't. No. But those possibilities come into that theory,
and about equally likely.
Yeah, and as well as that, when you're talking about cryptids like Bigfoot, where we're not talking about we're an animal with babies and a cave and feces and all that kind of evidence where you would get with normal animals. It's believed that these creatures come in and out through some sort of a parallel universe.
Yeah, well, a lot of the more modern theories now are linking Bigfoot to parallel universes and also unidentified flying objects. There has been numerous reports now where Bigfoots, if that's what you want to call them, or big feet, I don't know what, I think it's Bigfoot and it's even the plural. They have been reported, stepping in and out of what can only be described as a portal.
Imagine being a strange creature on another planet, and the first thing that they come up with is the size of your feet or the size of your nose. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, you know what they say about men with big feet.
Big shoes. Big socks.
Yeah. But that's right. What you said, Sam. A lot of modern day Bigfoot hunters are now starting to make claims that they are in fact a a dimensional creature rather than terrestrial to Earth.
It's kind of funny. It's kind of strange that we have a Bigfoot society here in Ireland and that, and we have the maps and stuff, and a lot of these sightings seems to be on coastal regions.
Yeah.
Not so much inland, but in coastal areas. In forests obviously, but in coastal areas.
Yeah, there was a big thing with that coastal areas with the UFOs in the 80s, where there were claims that there was a base, for want of a better word, literally off the coast of Wales, there was a lot of reports at the time of UFOs diving in and out of the sea. Oddly enough, that recent footage that the US military have actually released, one of those actually dives in and out of the ocean as well. So there has been a long-term connection, particularly with UFOs and coastal areas and offshore bases. Because if you think about it, the best place for anybody to hide on this planet would be underwater.
Yep.
The vast majority of the planet is water, and the vast majority of it, we as a species can't access.
But I still can't get my head around the big smelly monkeys being around the coastal areas. Do you know?
Yeah.
Has water got something to do with it? I don't know.
Quite possibly.
Do you know?
Quite possibly. And, it may be that coastal regions do tend to be a lot less populated than, there's huge stretches of coast that is uninhabited. And, if you are generating things like portals to pop in and out of, the last thing you want to be doing is generating them in the middle of an high street. If they want to keep themselves covert, they need to stay remote.
Who knows? They may need the water too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good evening, Philip and Caroline. How are you doing?
Sorry to hear that, Jane. You get off and get yourself some rest and keep yourself safe. Jane says she's got to go now. She's tested positive and getting tired. Yeah, we'll be doing these every Friday from now on again. Now we're all back online. I was going to introduce you all to Yowie tonight, but Yowie, being Yowie, has decided to start shedding his skin today. So he's got his arse hanging off and everything at the moment, and doesn't look particularly good, and don't really want to be disturbed. So hopefully next week, if he shed all his skin, I'll have him on the video for a bit.
That's a bearded dragon for anybody that doesn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've actually named him Yowie. I'm saying he's he, but I'm still not 100% certain. I'm going to do another scan of his rear end in a week or so to see if things have changed. Because I'm starting to suspect now he may actually be she.
Well, judging from what I've read about the tails, it kind of has a female tail, doesn't it?
Well,
long and pointy.
Well, they're longer in males normally, in bearded dragons, but they're normally broader in females. But he ain't really showing much in the terms of willies because they actually have two. But I've got to get him torched again. You basically shine a torch through the tail and you can see the organs, shall we say, the genitalia. The problem at the moment is while he's skinning, it's harder to see. So I've got to wait for him to shed all that skin, which is basically falling off as we speak. But hopefully next week you will all get to meet Yowie, named after the Australian Bigfoot.
He's so gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
That little picture that you posted, the last one where you see his tummy. And he's like up
Yeah.
to the window.
Well, that was this morning. I was actually talking to him, and he came running up to the first time he's done it, running up to the front of the glass, and but he loves you to talk to him. If you sit there and talk to him, he'll just sit there for hours and listen to you. I went up to check on him just before I, started the stream because the lights go off at 9 o'clock, and he'd already took himself to bed under his log. So he actually knows what time the lights go out now, and he disappears under his log about 15 minutes before the lights go out.
Oh.
But he's a right little pig. A right little pig.
He loves his food.
Yeah. Oh, he knows when the bugs and everything are coming. He was actually yesterday morning. I got up. He was actually sitting on the edge of his food bowl waiting for his salad.
Where's my dinner?
Literally. I wish I'd have took my phone up and took a picture of him at the time. It was so funny. Well, to be honest with you, we're going to call it a night now anyway, because believe it or not, we've been going for over 2 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Down it just. So I'd just like to thank everybody for coming on. I think next week we will probably be doing another Are You Psychic? But we will do it on here. I'll try and do it on here rather than through. We may have to do it through Skype next week. I'll see if I can get some other things sorted out. But we'll try and do an Are You Psychic, and we'll see how Sam does, because the first time she was really good at it. The second time she was absolutely crap at it. So,
yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if she's third time lucky. So have a good night, all. Keep yourself safe. I'd just like to mention the sad news today, which I received, which was the death of Meatloaf, one of my all-time heroes. I'm pretty sure the ambulance chasers will be in contact with him in the next day or so to get him to sing "Bat Out of Hell" on their spirit boxes. That will be. We'll wait and see, but.
Yeah.
Have a good night, everybody, and thank you very much. And thank you to Julie and Sam for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Brett. Thank you.
You have a good night, everybody, and we'll see you next Friday. Night all.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.